Okay, hello. So, I'm starting a new series on my channel. I was going to originally make a second YouTube channel for this, but I decided that it's probably not worth the effort. So, instead, I'm just creating it on this one. So, basically, what I'm going to be doing is reading horror stories off of the No Sleep subreddit, and me and one other person, or possibly more or less in the future, will talk about it either as we go along or at the end. So, currently, I'm with my friend Abby,
Hello.
and we're going to read a story called Is Anyone Playing the 48 Game? Posted by user Whispering Dark. So, yeah, let's just go. Is anyone playing the 48 game? Please read this. Does anyone else know how the 48 game ends? I'll say straight off that I'm not even sure if it's the right name for it, but it's what I've been calling it for reasons that will soon become obvious. I guess the easiest thing here is to start from the beginning. Well, I mean at the start of the game rather than the origin of the universe, or things are going to get even longer. I'm a writer, also a procrastinator, so I tend to have a lot of time where I do anything but what I actually should be doing. It actually started last year, before 2020 decided to throw its toys out of the pram. The game is tricky. You don't even know you're playing it at first, not until you're too deep to get out. That was how it was for me. I always sit on the same bench. It's a thing in the UK. If someone sits on your bench or stands in your spot on the train platform, you quietly hate them to the grave. Luckily, my bench was free, probably because it was pretty cold and with anyone with sense was outdoors for as little time as possible. But I like to people watch. There was a note there, weighed down by a little rock, and because I'm nosy, I read it. It said, "Put me in the trash." And at the bottom of it, there was a number. Number 48 was written in tiny numbers. The bin was right beside the bench, and I didn't want to toss it on the floor, so like a good citizen, I did what it said. I noticed there was a little envelope stuck to the back of the bin that said, "Open me," with another 48 at the bottom. So I did, and inside was a little note saying, "Thanks." And I pinned it to the and pinned to it was a voucher for our local coffee shop. Like I said, the game is designed this way. Most people would have thrown the paper into the rubbish and would use the voucher like I did. I figured it was some sort of civic responsibility initiative, and plus, free coffee. So, starting off, not super spooky, but
No.
hopefully it gets spooky because we're here for
Yeah,
spooky.
hopefully.
Also, um, forgive me if I mess up reading because I kind of suck at reading out loud, but I don't know. Hopefully, I'll get better eventually if this becomes a recurring thing on my channel. Okay. When I handed over my voucher, the barista smiled and gave me another envelope. In it was a voucher for our local restaurant. By now, I was convinced it was some sort of promotional thing, a weird ad campaign by our council to use some local businesses, especially as the coffee shop seemed to be involved. So I went to the restaurant. It wasn't entirely stupid. I did keep an eye out to make sure no one was waiting at the table in some sort of criminal mind situation, but everything went exactly as it should. There were no more envelopes, so I assumed it was the end of the promotion and I went on with my life. It was weeks before the next envelope arrived. I'd almost forgotten about the whole thing in the usual day to day grind. The next one freaked me out. At first, as someone had slid it under my windscreen wipers, another voucher to another restaurant. But this one was out of town. I told one of my friends about it. He's a pretty sensible person, but didn't seem freaked out and even offered to go with me. Safety in numbers and all that. He pointed out that this envelope didn't even have the number 48 on it. So this could just be another part of the same initiative, put it onto several people's cars. I think both of us saw it a little adventure, really. The writer and me thought it was good material, and my friend saw free food. Oh my god, that's me. Okay. It was when we arrived that things started to get weird. The restaurant was there all right, but it was boarded up. There was no one around, and straight away we decided to nope out of there, I was creeped out, thinking I might have gone there alone, and started realizing how strange all of this actually was. I decided that I was done with the odd little notes, filed it away in my writing material folder, and carried on as I always had. I found the next note 3 days later inside my house, on my kitchen table, and went straight to the police, as anyone with sense would, really. They actually took it pretty seriously, came to check my house, took the note in as evidence, and recommended some precautions I take so I could keep myself safe. The first thing I did was change the locks. The police pointed out that often people wouldn't think to do this, and you don't know who the previous owners gave keys to. Honestly, I couldn't really afford to put a security system in, as they're pretty expensive. But I did get one of those Ring doorbells and check it regularly. Nothing really happened aside from getting to watch Yodel Yeet, one of... Okay. Being able to watch one of my neighbors yeet one of my fragile parcels over the fence. Fun. So, someone broke into his house. That's a yikes. Okay. I think... What would you do in a situation like that?
Someone broke in? I don't know.
That's scary. Because you find these notes and you're like, oh, that's kind of sweet. And then it's in your house and you're just like, oh.
Yeah.
Like, that's... I don't know.
I'm scared of that happening.
It's spooky. I started to wonder if this was some screwed up I started to wonder if this was some screwed up ARG or similar, started by someone without normal boundaries. Jump ahead 2 months. I was a little wigged out over the whole thing, but again, had caught up in deadlines and financial worries. Plus, there was a lot of talk about this potential virus stuff far off in Asia. The next note was left in my front garden, in the middle of the path, and went straight to the point. You can't stop playing now. I checked the Ring doorbell straight away, but no one had come to my door, or even into my front garden. My mistake then was going back to the police. As soon as they saw the Ring doorbell footage, I'm pretty sure they figured I was doing this myself as some sort of joke. They weren't quite as friendly and helpful that time, and mentioned wasting police time. The message was pretty clear: don't come back until you have actual evidence. The next thing that happened was an email I received. I didn't even pick it up for a few days, to be honest. Most of my communication is via WhatsApp or similar these days. I only really get junk emails, despite unsubscribing 30 times and maybe looking at stuff once a week. This guy, calling himself Tom, had said he had been told to contact me and tell me to visit a certain place. I, of course, figured it was the game organizer himself contacting me, and I was tempted to go to the police again, but I knew they wouldn't do much after last time. The address I was told to visit was a graveyard, and there was absolutely no chance I was doing that. Like I said, I watch Criminal Minds, so I was more than a little creeped out by this. I threw the note in the bin, filed the email in case they messaged again, and checked the Ring doorbell pretty often during the day. That night was probably where it all really began. As I woke up around 3 a.m., completely terrified, I knew straight away that there was someone in my room. I assumed at first that it was a murderer. I think most people would. That was until I saw the squat shadow crouching on top of my wardrobe with red eyes, just watching me. That's spooky. Now, I'm a skeptic. I'm scared of Bundy, not the restless dead. There's some part of us in the moments like that just accept what we're looking at. Not that we won't question it later to try and reassure ourselves before we turn off the light, but this thing wasn't and had never been human. Simple as that. It dropped a piece of paper on the floor, and then it was gone. I wish it hadn't have done that. It would have been so easy to wake up the next day and mark it off as a weird dream. But the paper hadn't been there before, so there was no denying it. It had the same instruction as before, telling me to go to the graveyard. It is very hard to describe the feeling the thing left with me, but I didn't want it coming back, so against my better judgment, I went to the graveyard. So, creature in your room.
Yeah.
Fun.
It's one of my worst fears. I hate that.
I don't know. Man, I don't like that. That's
Well, I don't
scary.
think anybody would.
I don't know. Red eyes. That's kind of cliche, but I know. It's spooky.
Yeah.
Okay. Long story short, too late. I've been playing for a while now. The game has never asked me to hurt anyone, to break in anywhere, or to in any way break the law. I mostly just had to visit odd places. Ever since my nocturnal visitor, all of these places had to be visited at night. They were all cold, lonely places on the edge of nowhere. Cemeteries, countryside houses, boarded up businesses. No one ever tried to hurt me either, though a few times I was convinced I might have a heart attack when I heard a noise nearby. I think if it had asked me to do something against my moral code, I might have stopped anyway. I didn't think I could ever hurt an animal or a person, even if I might end up suffering myself if I don't. At least, I didn't think so back then. The game is clever that way. It knows people's limits and never pushes you over them. If I'm being really honest here, even though I was creeped out by the whole thing, a part of me found these places interesting, in the same way some people like gothic novels or grave rubbings. It appealed on some level to that dark part of me that led me to watching things like Criminal Minds in the first place, or reading No Sleep Stories. That desire to be scared. It even respected lockdown, asking me to go out only once per day, and by then, even a scary old house was better than staring at the same four walls. Or worse, reading about my friends during lockdown who were all running marathons or had learned 7 languages while I sat in my underwear eating chips. That's kind of a mood. Oh my god. Things are weird now, though. I see shadow people a lot, lingering around my corridors and at night. I sometimes hear scrabbling outside my bedroom door. I try to imagine Tom back, or I tried emailing Tom back, but the email just won't go through. This worries me. I think that the thing was a minion and there was a master somewhere, everywhere and nowhere, playing us like puppets. Before today, I have obeyed 46 instructions. One of Tom's was to keep me playing. I guess my role is to bring in some new players. I said that it knows you. It knows what interests you have. It draws you in with a simple instruction you're likely to follow. For example, me posting, "Please read this," at the top of the page. I'm sorry, if it makes you feel any better, I think the game is building to something, and the fact that it is now has new players makes me disposable. The Hat Man has been watching me since yesterday, peeping around corners or tiptoeing behind me when I walk around the house in the dark. I'm expecting my 48th instruction soon. I doubt there will be a 49th. Maybe I'll win some amazing prize. But I keep thinking of that scrabbling at my door. I think by playing, I've let something into this world. I think the game makes it stronger. Maybe by expanding its players, it is building its energy. It's 2020. This would be a year for monsters. Maybe it's an ARG of sorts after all. You have time to try and figure this out. Time I wasted by procrastinating. Good luck. There was a postscript on my 47th instruction that I am to tell you here at the end. You have already obeyed your first instruction by reading this. The second is this. Before you go to sleep, please turn off the light. And that's it.
You know
That's-
what that kind of reminded me of? Remember when you told the group chat that they were scratching at your door?
Yeah.
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 That was...
That's a funny story. Okay. So this actually happened to me. One time, I woke up and I heard my dog scratching at my door. And I was annoyed because it woke me up. So I opened the door and there was nothing there. So I was looking around for the dog and I went to my mom. I was like, "Hey, where are the dogs?" And she's like, "Oh, I brought them to the groomer a couple hours ago." I was like, "What?" And I told her that I heard something scratching at my door, and she just like shrugged and was like, I don't know, spooky. I was like, okay. So that happened. So yeah, that's the end of this first story and the end of episode 1 of, I don't know, should we name this series something?
Yeah. I don't know what to name it, but
I don't know. Maybe we'll find out a name some other time. And I guess, yeah, that's it. See you later.